Thousands of older adults in Boston have no place to call home, and most of us never see it. In this episode of the PR Bunker podcast, Hearth CEO Rhonda Pieroni shares how her organization is ending elder homelessness through supportive housing, trauma-informed care, and relentless advocacy. She talks about what homelessness really looks like, why the road to stability is longer than you think, and how anyone can help. Listen to the PR Bunker podcast now, and wherever you get your podcasts, grab your headphones, lock in, and let's get started with today's conversation. Here's your host, Don Martelli, CEO of the PR Bunker.
Welcome back down to the PR Bunker. I am more than excited to have this conversation today. And for those of you that know me and the work that I do in the nonprofit space, it's this conversation that has been a catalyst for everything else I've done with the Bunker. And I'm excited to have my friend Rhonda on the PR Bunker podcast. Rhonda, thank you for joining me today and welcome down to the Bunker.
Great. Dawn, it's a pleasure to be here. I've been looking forward to this as well. Thank you.
It's long overdue, my friend. So for those of you who don't know, Rhonda is the president and CEO of Hearth. And Hearth does magical things in Greater Boston to end elder homelessness. And I'll have Rhonda tell her story. But Rhonda, I'm a Revere guy. You're an Everett gal. So the two of us are a problem when we're together because we don't take any you-know-what from anybody, which is what I love about your story and how you've grown up through Hearth and the work you've done. I mean, you approach running a nonprofit that touches a very sensitive subject in a way like a Fortune 500 or a technology CEO would, and I really respect that. But can't thank you enough for the partnership that we've created and the work that you all do. But before we get into any of that, what is your story? Tell us about Hearth. Tell us about your journey at the organization.
Wow. Well, can I share a personal story?
Absolutely.
It really, to me, brings it all together. So I had worked at a college for year administration, vice president for administration. All my background was business within, the nonprofit sector. And then I took some time off of work, left there to care for a brother and my mother. And the story is interesting because my brother was homeless at periods of time. And there was, some mental illness there. And really, I had a journey as to how a homeless person was treated, whether it be hospitals, wherever. I really got to see that side of things and got to see that this is something that's not always of a person's choice, right? There are circumstances that happen. So then he passed away and I was looking to get back into, the business world again, so to speak. And I saw this opening at Hearth. Honestly, knew nothing about it and about the organization. And when I started there, I just thought I was called there for a reason. It was just amazing. And I thought of how, had these supports been there for my brother, the supportive housing that we do, maybe the outcome would have been different, or maybe he would have had more support than we could give him, living in an apartment and not having these services surrounding him. And that's what we do at Hearth. So that made it very interesting as to why I was there and how I could help and impact the lives of the people that live with us. So that's how it began. And that was 2017.
Incredible. It's a long time. So with your current role in the connection to the story, describe, because I think that you work in a space that people either don't see or don't want to see. And we've talked about that at length, right? Which is horrible. But what's the work like from your perspective? Because you're there every single day, meeting the community, meeting people at various stages of their journey, back into society. And so talk to me about the journey from your perspective and what it's like to sort of be on the ground to help people.
It's amazing because you hear all the different stories. So homelessness is not that one image that people have of somebody in the street begging for money, somebody not wanting to work, not wanting to, contribute to society. That's a lot of what people think. It's a variety of things, and I get to see all of that. It's someone who may just fall into hard times and need a little support. It's someone whose family has fallen onto hard times. And to see people that had a career, I see people who were human resource professionals who, because of an illness, lost their home, weren't able to pay their rent, weren't able to work anymore due to a disability or an illness, and found themselves in a shelter. So to see in those stories every day and to know that you have the ability to help them, it's amazing. So it opens your eyes too that it's not that one picture a lot of us
Mm.
have in our minds.
Hmm. I
It's
hear you.
not the mass and cast that we see on the news. That's a
Hmm.
piece of it, but that's a very small percentage of it. People don't. I'm sorry, Don. People
No, go
don't.
ahead.
Yeah, people don't want to be homeless.
No,
Nobody
not
wants
at
to.
all. Nobody plans to be homeless. No, not at all. I mean, and the other thing is, it's not an easy journey to get the folks from where they once were to where they are today. And your team has been great at explaining to me and helping me learn about the process. But talk about that. So when you come across Elisa or other folks that you've met that are now part of your community, what is that journey like for them, and what goes around getting somebody from point A to B to C? Because clearly there's a journey and it takes a little bit of time. But what's that journey like from the kind of the inside perspective?
Yeah, it's difficult. There's a lot. It's a lot of work to work with to help one person. So I look at it that we have four sides of the organization that help older adults, right? So we focus on older adult homelessness. We have housing, which Hearth has just a limited 228 units of housing right in the Boston area, our own housing with supportive services. Then we have outreach and prevention. So I'll describe for you on the outreach side of things. So our outreach case managers go into the shelters. They also take referrals from shelters, healthcare agencies, hospitals that a person needs housing. So they meet with that individual, but they have to get them housing ready. So what does housing ready mean? They need to help them if they don't have identification, if they don't have something that can verify their income. Maybe they don't have benefits and they're eligible for some type of Social Security benefit. We have to help them get their identification, get their benefits, get all this paperwork, which isn't easy if you've been living on the street or in a shelter. How do you get that? So they literally work with them, take them to these places, get them ready, and then begin the journey of finding housing. We have relationships with landlords and we're just search around and reach out to try to find suitable housing for them. Most of them will have some type of voucher, or perhaps the building that we are able to get them in has a subsidy tied to it that they're eligible for. So it's complicated matching somebody up with housing. And then once you do, you don't just give them the keys, shut the door, and they're fine. Problem solved, right? No, I mean, there's a lot emotionally that they've dealt with being unsheltered,
Mm,
and it's an adjustment. And I know you know this story, but and maybe it's helpful to share to your viewers.
absolutely.
Yeah, we had an individual, I know you're going to remember this, that we housed in a beautiful building, beautiful building. The landlords reached out to us and said, your client is sleeping in the hallway on the sofa in the middle of the hallway. We can't have her do that. So our counselors went out to meet with her, and it was difficult without people around her and without noise. So even though you're homeless, you tend to be surrounded, whether it's in the shelter or on the street, you're surrounded by people, you're surrounded by noise, and it can be frightening to put that key in the door and then close that door behind you. So this is where we talk about people may have heard trauma-informed care. That's what we practice because we have to understand that they all went through some type of trauma. How do we work with them to help them get past that, or to help them, I don't know if get past is the right term, help them adjust, right? How do we do that? So it takes a lot. And then we provide the support. They don't have furniture, bedding. We set them up to help them have a home to start. So
That's incredible.
and there's a big financial aspect to it as
Hmm.
well.
Hmm.
A lot of care. And then we continue on with what we call stabilization services. So if you're part of Hearth Housing, we have everybody on site. We have a nurse care manager, we have a clinician, we have an activities director, a program manager. But when we can't house somebody because we're limited in our building, but we house them somewhere else, what do? Well, we bring those services to them. We engage them in the community. We take them around. We make sure that they have connected with a primary care physician, with a hospital, with a community center. We check in and make sure that they're adjusting. So trying to bring those services to them, we call them stabilization services. And we continue to provide them for as long as the person wants them. There's no limit to it. And that's what
Incredible.
and that's what keeps them housed.
Well, clearly, this all doesn't happen without a system and infrastructure in place to, raise the capital to do the work that you all do, because it's not as easy as plucking somebody off the street and putting them into an apartment building, as you eloquently described. I mean, what's that like? I mean, because, you're not saving, kittens and dogs and all the kind of the quote unquote sexier nonprofits that are
Mhm.
available to those that give their time, their talent, and treasure to. I'm sure, and I know from my work with you all how difficult it can be, but what's that fight like? Because now we're talking about advocacy for those that are on the street that we want to help. We want to talk about advocacy for legislation. So, what's that advocacy fundraising work for like you all, and how can people get involved?
Yeah, definitely. So advocacy is that fourth, part of how we do our work. It's tough. The fundraising is really difficult and we spend a lot of effort on trying to, I hate to say it, but trying to convince people. Like you said, it's not sexy. It's not attractive. There's the misconceptions that people have. So what we try to do is demonstrate the work and the results of that work, the impact that our work has to help people to understand that their dollars are going to something very good, a good cause, something that has results. We show that how many people we have 70% of our current residents have been with us over 10 years. That's unheard of, I think. 70%. So that shows that permanent supportive housing is effective. And the cost of permanent supportive housing, you know, that helps to reduce the cost of Medicaid, of hospital visits, to the emergency, of hospitalizations, of people struggling with maybe medication as they get older, making mistakes on taking their own medication. It helps in so many ways. So what we try to do is through our grant writing and our fundraising is to share the impact of our work to demonstrate how many people it helps, in what ways it helps people, and also show the reality that the older adults, age 50 and over, are 20 to 25% of the homeless population in the United States. And that's expected to grow.
Wow.
So we could all be affected by that. So that's what we try to demonstrate. And what do we need? We
Mm.
need support. We don't get a lot of funding from the government. A lot of the work we do is through our grants and fundraising. So I would say that if people, I'd be happy to meet with anybody, come over to Hearth, show you around, meet with people, share some of our stories and the results of our work, and encourage you to support us. We have many ways to support, whether it's a volunteer,
Hmm.
giving us, like you say, your talent, whether it's providing a donation. And we have this new club called the Kindling Club, and it's a monthly supporter. And that's a great way to help us because when we know someone's signed up for a monthly contribution, we can count on that as revenue. We can say,
Yeah,
okay, we
absolutely.
have X amount of people that are, signed up for this. We can count on that revenue coming in. And that's what's key because it's hard to assume someone's going to donate once again at the end of the year or attend our gala and donate the same amount they might have done last year. So it's just kind of, always trying to do that little guessing work. So if we had
Hmm.
some steady supporters, that would be great. But any way that they can support us is definitely appreciated and put to good use.
Yeah, it's much needed. Absolutely needed. Now, clearly, with your background experience, there's a million things you could be doing at an executive level, and this is hard work. So, what drives you to every single day, put your big girl pants on, get into the trenches, and do this level of work in this particular kind of space? What drives you to do it?
I'm stubborn is one thing, right?
You're a tough lady from Everett. That's what it is.
Well,
You
that's what
love a
it is.
good fight.
I don't give up, right? And I know that there are good people and a good reason to help. I think of my brother. I think of the people that I've met here that they're happy. You look at, we have a video on our website of Anthony, Carol, and Mark, and they have a great story and they're happy living at Hearth. So to see how their lives have improved and to see them happy as they're aging is so rewarding. So I do it because of that. It is rewarding. You're helping people. They're worthy of being helped. You make a difference. And I also want to say that the problem of homelessness can be solved. There are other states around the country. Denver is one of them that is working and has really reduced it and the problem there, right? So how do we get better at solving this? It is solvable.
Mm, hmm.
I think that's the thing. And you're not throwing what do I say? Good money after bad or bad money after good, there
Yeah,
is a solution. You're helping people, you're
sure.
changing lives, and there is truly a solution if we could get together and
Got it.
commit to this. Yeah.
That's awesome. I mean, we touched on advocacy a little bit too as well, but I know that in our conversation, you have been sought out by folks outside of the Boston market to look at the model to which you all have developed and run to this day. Now, what's that work look like? So, take me beyond, just the greater Boston area, and how are people seeing you and your organization as a leader in the space?
Well, older adult, we're the only organization in Massachusetts that focuses solely on older adults, homeless older adults. So I've been communicating with organizations, Kansas City, Montana. They've reached out because when they Google this or somehow learn about us through different organizations. Leading Age is a number one organization. They see that this is our focus and that we've been successful in this. And they see that older adults is this growing population. They're seeing it in their communities. So how do you address it? Because it is a unique population. You can't address it the same way you would family homelessness or young adult homelessness. For the most part, older adults that we have may have finished their work career, may not be capable of a full-time work, career due to disability. They have unique needs, you have to have a building that can, and people that can manage them in terms of safety, falls, so many things that come into play with an older adult. It takes a lot of experience in this. So they reach out to us to learn more about how we've set up this model because they're seeing the problem growing in their area.
Yeah, no, it's great. I mean, it's good that they're finding you too. That you're willing to offer the time and resources to educate, because that's another part of advocacy. Not just here in Boston, but you can be seen as somebody who can bring solutions to the table elsewhere outside of Boston. That's a great opportunity. It could open up other lanes to donors and people to build relationships with, and so on and so forth. I mean, what's clearly, as you've been with the organization has changed multiple times over, right? You got new brands, you launched a new website, you've done some new things, hired some new staff, and the work is consistent. Right? You're still doing the same thing, if you will. But what's Hearth looking like in the next year or two or three? What's the vision for this organization? Its fight to support folks that are on the street and give them the support they need. What's next for Hearth, and how can people again get more involved?
Yeah. So the next thing is, it's very difficult to build new housing, new affordable housing. And we say affordable, but this is deeply affordable housing. This is low income housing is what we provide. It's not traditional 50 to 60% AMI affordable housing. So that's very difficult and very expensive to build. So what we're planning on doing is we know that the people are out there, the older adults are in our community that are homeless. How do we help them? And there's also a number of people that are at risk of becoming homeless as they begin to retire and find that they can no longer afford their home and what they do. So our plan, and we actually are just starting this in the next month, is expanding our outreach and prevention department. So hiring more case managers and spreading that out, because the more people that we have on staff that can go into those shelters and then go out on the street and do the housing search, the more people we can house rather than say, wait till more housing is built. We end up going further out though. Here's the other side of that. We're housing people because Boston is so expensive and limited in the amount of housing. We're housing people in Quincy, in Brockton, in Rockland. So it's taking a lot to get those counselors out there. So we need more people. And we're also, kind of tossing around the idea, do we expand? Do we reach out further? Do we, office space and so forth? But overall, it's pretty much expanding our outreach and prevention department, hiring more individuals to serve the growing need.
That's
And at
great.
some point, we would love to build more housing. That's certainly something we'd love to do. But in the interim, we just need to have more people on the ground to help out.
Love that. Yeah. So I'm sure if there's real estate developers out there listening to this podcast that have an opportunity to build some affordable housing and want to partner with Hearth, absolutely give Rhonda a call. Those that want to donate, feel free to give a call. Want to put your credit card down, do a regular donation that just rips off the credit card every month, do that. I'm highly recommending that. Let's, going back to sort of, where you are today in advocacy, if you are somebody who is passionate about just supporting, those that we need to help. What other ways can people advocate on your behalf? Clearly, they can write a check and go to an event and do things, but are there other things you can direct people to do? Is it, following you all on social media, talking to their local congressman or representative, legislation influence? I mean, how else can people get involved? Because it's really easy to write a check. And yes, we want every single one of you to write a big fat ass check, right? Big old with a bunch of zeros in the back end. But there's other ways to get involved. And how would you suggest people to just think about this a little further, so it's it just aids in the growth and the work that you all doing, not only looking in Boston now, clearly maybe across Massachusetts and maybe nationally. So what else?
Well, it's interesting. Sometimes we think, our local, say, councilors, representatives know everything about the issue, and they don't always. And that's because there is a lot that they need to know.
Sure, there's
So
a million things going on.
there's so many things going on. So I had the opportunity to meet with a council person this week, and they didn't have the full scope of what we did in terms of, they were thinking it was affordable housing, and it's not. It's low income, homeless, for basically focusing on a homeless population or a 30% AMI. So that was eye opening, that the affordable housing side of things really doesn't help our individuals because they can't afford that. So the conversation was, we need to take a better look at, when we're building affordable housing, what that truly means. So essentially, talk with your local, whatever city or town that you live in. It'll have a positive impact. It doesn't have to be in Boston, because we have people all across the state that are dealing with this. So get involved in your local community. Let them know the concerns that you're seeing or hearing. And that's important, because there's a lot of legislation out there that can be impacted by that. So
Agreed.
certainly being involved and listening more when you hear that your community may want to build affordable housing, may want to put something in place. You know, be more open to finding out what that's all about.
Yeah, there's certain stigma that comes with affordable, right? And
Yeah.
unfortunately, I mean, we all know how affordable things can and can't be. But at the same time, if our responsibility is to support our community, and that means everybody that lives in the big houses to those that don't have a home. And I think that if you can give your time and talent and treasure, you should think of doing it in some way, shape, or form, because it could start with $1, could be $10, $100,000, could be 5 hours of volunteer time. It doesn't matter, or just sharing something on social media to just extend the awareness of what you all do. Where can people find Hearth online?
www.hearth, Hearth,
Mm-hmm.
home.org.
Fantastic. And the reason why she spelled that out, audience, because if Rhonda and I were really talking Boston, we'd be going, it's Hearth. It's Hearth.org, right? So you grew up in Everett, right?
I
That what it
did.
was?
Absolutely.
Excellent. All right. Yeah. So Everett, just like, Revere, has changed a million times over the years. And it's still emblematic of, kind of core blue collar,
So great.
communities. And I appreciate the way you run and manage your team at Hearth in that kind of, no BS kind of way, because it's hard work, Rhonda. It's super hard work. And you and I, this intimately, because I told you the story, but when I was starting my business, like the first client that I finally, luckily got engaged, you and I had a conversation. We stuck with it. We found a place to land, and it's been a catalyst for me to learn to work in this particular space. Not that I didn't work with nonprofits before, but it's a different way to approach the work, and just to see the impact and just play a really small, tiny role in the brand, in the storytelling, in the organization, just makes me feel good. And if that helps bring in dollars and gets people off the street, and the story like Lisa, I mean, that's all good stuff. And the problem is, I think you and I are like, we're tough SOBs, and we want more of that. We want more donations. We want more support. We want to, be millions of dollars in the black so we can dump it back into the state, dump it back into affordable housing, and make sure that nobody is left alone. Because I think that's the thing that you talk a lot about, is that these people are out there by themselves and they're up against it. And these stories have to be told. So, and before we end, when people that ask you what you do in your work, are there particular, other than the woman with the apartment and the couch, and then Lisa's story, which we've mentioned a couple times, are there other kind of small little anecdotes that really just hit the nail on the head with the Hearth story, or the Hearth story, as we'd say?
Story. Well, I'll tell you a recent, say, case or story we're working on right now. So there is a woman, this speaks to the prevention side of things. She's 78 years old. She's still working full time. Her husband died 2 years ago. Her daughter died a year ago, and she's trying to keep her home. She's at risk of losing her home because now she just has one Social Security income and her job. She doesn't have her spouse who passed away. We are working. So she ended up getting into arrears because of year after year. The husband died, then the daughter died, funeral expenses and whatnot. So she came to us because she's in arrears with her mortgage. So we're helping her pay her mortgage, get back in shape, and then be able to afford, to continue. But she just got into a situation where she got behind. And we see that. People can get behind in rent, behind in mortgage, maybe a medical crisis comes up, or like her, a personal crisis comes up, and it puts you behind. And then all of a sudden, you're facing foreclosure or you're facing eviction. And to be able to help that person is just incredible. And that's what we do every day on the prevention side of things as well. And we're
Yeah.
seeing more and more of that. We looked at how many people we helped in prevention in 2024 and 2025, and we saw a 20% increase in 2025.
Ugh. Yeah, and it's great that you can service that many people, but it's awful that the number goes up.
Right.
It's awful. In
Yes.
some cases, in business, you want your numbers to go in that direction. But in this case, we don't. We want the
Yeah,
number to go in the other way.
exactly. That's what I always say. I'm not happy about these numbers.
No, not at all. I mean, we're happy we can service them and support them and put the infrastructure around these individuals in their lives and get things kind of on a straight and narrow. But it's tough to see that number increase every single year. But it's emblematic of the community, the society, the cost, affordable housing, the policy issues, advocacy. It all kind of sits in this blender that most people don't see, but there's individuals behind these stories. There are the Lisas. There are the different, folks like this woman here who's just, maybe 2-3 years ago was living a life that was awesome, right? Had a home, had a family, and things can crumble in a second. So thankful that we have organizations like Hearth and others out there to kind of just, carry that flag. It's tough work, but I commend you all for doing it.
Thank you.
Again, one more time on the website so people don't forget it. So when they do write that $10 million check, they know where to send it.
www.hearth, Hearth -home, so hearth-home.org.
Love that. And they're on social everywhere. And I advise if you want to stay on the pulse of what's going on with Hearth, hit their website. Rhonda issues a CEO Corner, which goes out every month, where she talks about the issues facing their organization, the folks they're servicing, advocacy, kind of covers a wide variety of things. Do a great job on their social media. There's a lot of content out there. So and I'm thankful that I'm involved in all that. But I definitely, thank you for, one, the friendship, two, for the work that you do, and for you being that, tough, tenacious leader that is not going to quit and not going to leave any behind. Because I think the world needs more Rhondas.
Thank you, Don. I appreciate your help. You've been an incredible supporter, incredible right hand to me. I totally appreciate it.
But we're neighbors. We're neighbors, kids. So we got to help each other out, Absolutely. We're tough SOBs, right? We love the tough work, but again, it's congratulations, more work to do. And you always said, like, you take one little victory lap, but we're getting back to work tomorrow. And that's what this is all about.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Well, Rhonda, thank you for joining the PR Bunker. It's been a pleasure and an honor to be part of this journey and tell the story. And I can't wait to see what other lives we can impact in the next year, 2, 10, 20, whenever we're going to be doing this stuff. So
Absolutely.
Thanks again for stopping by the bunker.
All right. Thank you. Good to see you. Bye.
Mm-hmm.
That's the PR Bunker podcast, hosted by Don Martelli. Here's the thesis. Reputation is the operating system for your business. It's the one asset that works while you sleep. When you need to defend it, repair it, or build it, start at prbunker.com. And for a sharper way to build the relationships that actually get you to yes, subscribe to the Anti-Networking Playbook on Substack. New every week. When reputation decides the outcome, be ready. We'll see you next time, and remember, stay locked in.